We're going to start with the Irish Indo. England banish penalty curse. Actually, I've got a different headline. Brace yourselves. So obviously, football could actually be coming home after England banish penalty curse. So there's a different headline. A little bit earlier on, the earlier one went to print and was like, let's get that out there. But brace yourselves is a warning. So it's like, ooh, what's it going to be like if football comes home? But then the lead story on the back, really, which is one that we're going to just get into for a couple of minutes here. Donegal's grounds for concern over Croker clash with Dubs. This is the fact that Donegal County Board confirmed last night in a statement that they will be talking to Croke Park to try and address the unfairness in the situation that sees 2 home matches for Dublin in the Super 8s. Now, people have been getting in touch going, well, Parnell Park is their home game, so let's play the game in Parnell Park. Parnell Park is not Dublin's home game. It might officially be their home game. It might be the venue that they run their administration out of, but they play their home matches in Croke Park and have done since the year 2011. That's 7 years of home matches. In terms of championship, it goes way back beyond that, the last time that they played a championship game in Parnell Park. So let's just nail the bullshit that Parnell Park is Dublin's home game. The argument that Dublin don't get in to practice freeze, oh man, spare me the nonsense of that, will you? The whole point about this is that Dublin play their matches in Croke Park. It's their home game, and they get the benefits that attend from having a home match in Croker at Croke Park. That's their home game. This is like a circular thing here where every time they play there, the home advantage increases. And that's fair enough. They're entitled to have a home ground. We all know that, and actually it's brilliant that they do, because Croke Park, when the Dubs are on song, is a brilliant place to be from a sports perspective. But it's not fair that they get that more often than anybody else. It's not fair that they would have 2 home games and nobody else in their group would have 2 home games. That damages the integrity of the competition, and it means that there will always be this asterisk beside it if and when they win. It's just a fact that it's not fair. And there's an easy fix. Take the Dublin-Donegal game and put it somewhere in the Midlands, put it in Galway, put it in Limerick, put it in Clonus, put it anywhere. But that way, at least, you'll have had the opportunity to say it was a fair and level playing field.
Yeah, it's true. I guess even when you take it one step further, you could definitely make the point that holding semi-finals and finals in Croke Park is subsequently unfair, but we've never really had this conversation before. We've always just kind of put the head down and got on with it and said, you know, this is the way it is and this is the way it's always going to be. And you know what? Maybe it shouldn't be the way it's always going to be. Maybe somebody should take a stand and say, listen, maybe we need to have a look at this thing, because ultimately there is a team who is playing here every second week. When it comes to the National League, they're used to the setting. They outnumber the supporters. It's right on their doorstep, all that sort of stuff. It is an advantage to them. It is their home ground. The Parnell Park reasoning is almost a parody. It's almost I always feel like I'm seeing parody accounts on Twitter saying that Parnell Park is actually our home ground, because it's not.
Anybody who tells you Parnell Park is Dublin's home ground is treating you like an idiot.
Well, so, like, if Parnell Park is Dublin's home ground, well then we need to doff our caps at the generosity of Dublin to sacrifice every single home game they've had in the league for the last 7 years and say, listen, no, we're going to play it in the neutral venue of Croke Park. Fair play to you, Dublin. Fair play for actually giving up your home venue of Parnell Park and actually moving it to a neutral venue every time you've had the opportunity. And fair play to you for actually having to deal with the bright lights of Croke Park when it comes to the championship there, which just so happens to be a neutral venue that also happens to be the neutral venue that you use instead of your home ground in the league. I think, as you say there, just puncture the Parnell Park thing and move on, because there's no point having a conversation about that.
Let's just bring you the Donegal statement. We can have a look at this. So they posted this on Facebook last night. We had been talking to them, and so here you go. Following the announcement today by the CCCC regarding venues for the All-Ireland quarter-final group stage games, CLG Donegal are to seek a meeting with GAA officials to seek clarification on how any county may use a ground as both neutral and a home venue. That's the key thing that punctures all the bullshit around this. How any county may use a ground as both neutral and a home venue. The intention of the meeting is to ensure a level playing field for every team who will qualify for the All-Ireland quarter-final group stage, and to ensure that no team has any advantage over any other team. That's from Ed Byrne, the PRO of Donegal GAA. Now, we hope to hear from somebody from Donegal a little bit later on in the programme, but it's also possible that Croke Park have told them don't speak in advance of any meeting because they want to get their ducks in a row and they want to dampen down this story. So you should expect in the traditional outlets that you will be told this is not a story. The rules are in place. Everybody knew exactly what the circumstances were, and there is no reason for us to have any conversation about this. It was clear from the get-go, lads, that there was going to be 2 games for Dublin and Croke Park. Indeed, Pádraig Duffy actually, in his original proposal, had a question and answer session about, this is just about the money. He was like, no, it absolutely isn't. So it's a bit blurry for you there, but I can just about make it out. Dublin would play 2 of their group games at Croke Park. This was in his 20-page proposal that originally was published about the entire notion of the Super 8. Just stick it back up for me there, sorry. And this is at the bottom of the 2 pages that he gives to question and answers about the negative media reaction around it. This proposal guarantees that Dublin must play 1 game in the All-Ireland series outside Croke Park. At present, this cannot happen as all of these games are played in Croke Park. So the logic is, the situation is pretty shit now. This will make it a little bit less shit for everybody else. But let's move on quickly, and let's not. And in fairness, Pádraig Duffy, he was doing an unbelievably difficult job in trying to push through a bunch of proposals a year after 18 separate proposals had been voted down at Congress. He had to get these through Congress. That was what the management committee of the GAA said, let's get these proposals through. And it's like, the notion that this was widely debated at the time is absolute nonsense. The notion that any counties thought, actually this is going to be a big issue for us because that means if we end up being the provincial champions, then we'll end up in Dublin's group and Dublin will get 2 games. Nobody thought this through because hurling was shouting about the fact that they were being completely left behind. They had to have a special Congress 5 months later to try and fix the hurling situation, which they did with the round robin in Leinster and Munster. The CPA had just formed around this time and were giving out stink rightly about the lot of the club players. And so most of the arguments here were about condensing the season. The GPA were sitting on their hands for most of the time in the build-up until a week beforehand they'd come out and said, under no circumstances do we want this to go ahead. We voted for this. We've had everybody through. So I watched for my sins the entire debate that happened at Congress, again on YouTube this morning, and I've tweeted a link to it out if you want to have a look at it. There was zero mention in that debate of the fact that Dublin would have 2 home matches in Croke Park. This was not widely debated, this was not widely expected. Nobody really thought about it because it was so far away and it was such a nebulous concept of the Super 8s, and nobody put their hand up and went, hang on a second, that's unfair because Dublin will have 2 home games. And that's all it is.
Yeah, it's true. I did make a mental note of it at the time that it did seem that Dublin were going to have 2 games in the inevitability that they were going to win Leinster once again this year. But at the same time, my mind wasn't thinking about this. My mind was thinking about, holy crap, we've just had the most radical overhaul of the championship that we've seen since the qualifiers potentially ever. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about all the other venues here, the possibilities of a county playing 3 games in the quarterfinals instead of 1. The fact of venues and fixture setting was nowhere near my mind. I don't think it was near anybody's mind at that point, and that could almost be put apologetically in terms of the GAA that day. That's why it wasn't debated, and that's fair enough.
Absolutely. Just on that, right? Because the only everybody's saying, it was always a Croke Park round, a home round, and an away round. But at Croke Park, at Congress, the first speaker from the floor gets up, and he's Michael Larkin from Galway, like a long-standing member of the GAA administration community in Galway and beyond. And here's what he had to say. Just have a look at this.
Michael Larkin, Galway, Michael Larkin, Galway. Uchtron, Arshura Huragas Karja. Galway are in favour of this motion. We believe that this is a very good motion, as has been highlighted there in the introduction of the motion. There's only a couple of points I wish to make in relation to the motion, and they've been covered already, but the first thing is the fact that this is going to give us very competitive games towards the last stages of the football championship. And the idea of having a game as a neutral venue, a home venue and an away venue is certainly very attractive for the counties involved. And we're not just speaking here about the larger counties. We are hoping that basically every county will progress and at some point be able to participate in the latter stages of our championship. So we have debated it quite a lot in Galway. We believe, as I said, a very good motion. We believe also that it will generate extra funding from the gate receipts and from the commercial transactions associated with those games.
His exact words, neutral, home and away. So the notion that this was well understood, that it would be at Croke Park round a home match and an away match isn't true. So when everybody tells you this was all decided at Congress, we can't change it now, it's fixed for Croke Park, it has to be that way forever, it wasn't widely understood. If that's somebody at Congress who understands exactly how Congress works, who's there proposing the motion and doing an excellent job of it, says neutral instead of Croke Park, there's clear that there was confusion. It's clear that there was confusion in the midst of all this. Also, one final point. As we all now know, the CCCC has final say on all fixtures, except that one round in the qualifiers when they don't have final say when it's home advantage. And they still kind of might have final say. The rules for this say all the games will be fixed for blah, 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 blah. CCCC has final say. So if they decided that they wanted the game for the integrity of the competition to be moved from Croke Park, they could do that. If they decided that the third round of these games, which hasn't been fixed yet, takes Dublin out of Croke Park for that third game, then fair enough. That's actually also an excellent solution to this.
My honest belief is that the reason why the Croke Park stipulation was put into the Super 8 manifesto was as a neutral venue. And I know it's not, it doesn't reflect too well on the GAA to suggest that they possibly didn't think about this situation, but I honestly believe that that might actually be the honest case here. It is an honest error, but it's an important error to point out. It's because it's a precedent. It is kind of the situation favouring Dublin once again, and favouring, I guess, kind of an injustice in the competition. It's not really a fair competition. Like, will it tarnish the reputation of this Dublin team? I don't know. Maybe. Like, it's certainly a
Jim
point
McGuinness
that's
wondered
negative.
if it would have an impact on their legacy, and that's him saying that, right? You can definitely make the case that the legacy is different from the legacy of other teams if you win your championships at home. Like, I think that they want to go on the road, and they want this as players. And certainly if you talk to anybody involved, like in GAA properly in Dublin, they're like, they don't care. They actually don't care. They back their players and they back their team, and they want to go, and they think it'll be a great experience. And here's the chance to fix it. But if you go, no, we can't do it, it has to be Congress, no doubt Congress will go, well, these rules are in for 3 years, so we fix it in 3 years. And by that stage, it's like, okay, fair enough. You didn't care enough to get your shit together to fix it.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens, because Donegal, I understand, are set to meet with Croke Park either tomorrow or Friday, so we can expect further communication with the GAA before the weekend. And as you said, there is kind of word that the GAA have been burnt to a certain extent by what happened with Newbridge or Nowhere, that's going to have a long-lasting impact on how the GAA approach these situations. They're taking this seriously. There's no question about that. I'm not sure would they've taken it as seriously had Newbridge or Nowhere not actually happened, because ultimately it's less black and white than the Newbridge or Nowhere situation. This is ultimately about the integrity of the competition, and it is ultimately a stipulation in the rule book that fell through the cracks because there was such radical change at play. And let's not forget that it wasn't just the Super 8s up for a debate at Congress that day. There was something like, I think there was over 60 motions before Congress that day, and one of the 60 was the Super 8s as a whole. Like that, this is the magnitude over the course of one weekend. Like, how the hell was the minute detail of this supposed to be carried out? And maybe I'm giving Pádraig Duffy and the GAA too much credit here, but I believe this is just an honest mistake, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to dramatically impact the integrity of the competition. Whether or not Donegal are going to be successful with this, well, I'd have my doubts. I really would. I would be surprised if this game isn't happening in Croke Park.
If I was Donegal, I would be getting out now and doing my media today and rallying the troops and making this thing be a lightning rod behind them. But
well, that's from what I can understand, that's not going to happen as a result of Newbridge or Nowhere. The GAA do not want.
No, they've learned some lessons from
They don't
it.
want a storm. It may not be a shitstorm like Newbridge or Nowhere was, but it will be a storm. It will be loud.
The Irish Examiner, Jordan Joy, Pickford the hero as England dodge more penalty pain. Pardon me. Elite Super 8 leash boss Sugru on the future of the GAA underdog.
You need some EPO.
I do. I need something.
You need something stronger than clenbuterol or salbutamol.
Do you want to take over?
Well, I can do. It's the Times Ireland edition there. You can hold up the picture like they do in Family Fortunes. I'll be Vernon Kay. This moment of history, England's moment of history, is what the back page of the Times says. The Racing Post then, they obviously went to print before England last night. Swede dreams 150-1 shots reached the quarter-finals. There's Eric Forsberg there celebrating after his deflected shot, gave them a 1-0 lead, 1-0 win I should say, against Switzerland yesterday in the World Cup last 16. The back page of the Herald is penalty joy for England. Jordan Pickford and Dyer and Pickford I should say, and shootout jinx. There's Gareth Southgate celebrating with Eric Dyer after he netted the winning penalty last night. They've got the same photograph on the back of the Irish Daily Mail this morning. Coolest man in Russia, says the headline. Dyer fires England into the World Cup last 8. While on the back page of the Irish Daily Star, it's Air Jordan. Again there it's Jordan Pickford saving with his left hand as he dives to the right. He can pull off that move, and sometimes it is the correct thing to do as a goalkeeper, believe it or not. You've also got Donegal, Croke crisis talks. That's Carl O'Kane picking up on the story there as well from that statement from Donegal last night. The back page of the Mirror is Eric Idle. Dyer is Lions penalty hero. While on the back page of the Irish Sun this morning, it's England win on penalties. Yes, really. Eric and Pick end curse. And then just a couple of the UK back pages that we have in physical form. We'll go through the rest of them in a while. Yes, we can. England finally win a World Cup penalty shootout and face Sweden in the quarter-finals. And the front page of the Daily Telegraph sports section is believe. Yes, England really did win the penalty shootout. Now it's Sweden for a place in the semi-finals.
It's football. Football's coming home, as we all know, after England winning on penalties last night. We'll talk to Daniel Harris in a minute, but how have the English papers been dealing with this?
Well, let's take a look at it. You can only see it to believe it. Here's the back page of the UK Mirror this morning, as jubilant as you'd expect. Miracle in Moscow. Now Sweden in last 8 as England finally win dramatic penalty shootout. There is
understated.
Yeah, it is. It's to be fair, I think we're going to be a little bit disappointed over the course of these next few back pages. I think they're remarkably gracious.
Sun front page there.
Well, we will get to the Sun in a moment, but first here is the Express. We will see how gracious they are in a moment once we get the Express on screen. At last, after 22 years of hurt, Southgate's Lions finally win a penalty shootout to earn Sweden showdown. Again, all factual. At last as well, you know, it's Etta James. It's all coming up. Harry Kane and Jordan Pickford. It was interesting the way it was Jordan Pickford who was at the base of the pylon last night rather than Eric Dyer, which I think is fair enough. To be fair, I think they appreciated who really won them this game, and he won the game twice for them. Let's not forget. But I think it was just so fitting the way everybody was complaining about Eric Dyer being brought on, and it was like, Southgate will regret making that substitution now. They've just conceded in the 94th minute, and they've got Eric Dyer on the pitch. And it came out to bite Colombia in the ass, if anything. Here is the Sun, the back page. Hand of Jord. 3 Lions finally win shootout. This is the front of the Sun, I should actually say. Jordan Pickford's left hand.
Actual, okay.
So, yeah, like, this would suggest to me that football is more coming home than it's ever been, because the English tabloids are being very gracious about it. They're not rubbing it in Colombian faces. They're not being overly kind of... they're not preaching from the mountaintop about how England are the greatest football team of all time after beating Colombia in a penalty shootout, despite the fact that Colombia are missing their best player. They are talking about the fact that this is a great moment. They've got this penalty shootout monkey off their back, and that's that. On to the next one. And on to the next one indeed with the papers. Here is the Times, the London edition. Yes, it really happened. Dyer scores the winning penalty after Pickford makes stunning save. And first time that England have won a shootout in a World Cup. Yes, it was their 4th shootout after 1990, after 98, and after 2006. They'd finally done it just when you thought Jordan Henderson had bottled it for everybody. Which was a great call by Ray Houghton on RTE last night. I'm not sure if you heard that.
Yeah.
Because obviously for those in the stadium, it must have been pretty clear that he was nervous. But for us at home, he kind of illuminated the fact that he was doing keepy-uppies and the way he was juggling the ball to the penalty spot. And he was like, he looks nervous. That's a sign of nervousness. And in true Tony Romo style, called it to perfection. And it was a nice eye for the goalkeeper, and the keeper saved it. The Telegraph as well, we showed you this a little bit earlier, but here's a reminder. Believe, yes, England really did win a penalty shootout. Now it's Sweden for a place in the semi-finals, and I'm not sure if that Argus ad for Beats by Dre would have actually gone up were it not for the result last night. Made defiant, it says on Harry Kane. It's good product placement there. And The Guardian then finally goes with, yes, we can. England finally win a World Cup penalty shootout and face Sweden in the quarterfinals. It's a great scene, and I was actually gutted when England conceded last night.
Oh yeah, you wanted them to win.
Yeah, but I didn't, like, you don't realise how much you want the team to win until it's actually in the melting pot there. And it was when Mina scored that header and when Kieran Trippier's head wasn't big enough to stop the ball crashing over the line. It was only at that moment that I realised, holy crap, I'm an England fan.
Have a look at how the actual English fans reacted to their win last night.
And the reaction here in the studio, right, he can't watch. And that will be mirrored up and down the land as England finally win a shootout in the World Cup. Running orders getting ripped up, confetti everywhere. England into the last stage.
You will never know what that means to me. That is everything. Everything! We love you, boys.
Wow.
Was intense. I have not seen that video up until that point, and I am shitting it.